Okay, I'd like to call February 27th, Narberth Borough Infrastructure Committee meeting to order. Okay, so the first item is to approve the minutes for February 2024. So is everybody good with that? I guess I'd have a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, the first item of business under borough projects is the roof reinforcement project at 80 Windsor. Who wants to speak about that?
I'll talk about that, sure, thanks. We are continuing to progress with the construction plans for the construction of the roof reinforcement project at the library, or 80 Windsor. It's going to be more than just the library, it'll be all three rooms. We are still on track for a mid-March start date for that. We're currently working through contract requirements. The big hurdle this week was builder's risk insurance. Learning a lot about insurance. I'm not a big insurance expert, to say the least. Thankfully, it looks as though our existing property and liability coverage includes that and at no additional cost. So it's just, crossing T's, dotting I's, making sure everything is contractually on the up and up. We have scheduled recurring meeting project meetings. Once the project begins, we found that these complicated, these large-scale projects, it's helpful to have recurring meetings with all those involved, including the users, just so we can manage expectations. And we're we're also going to be scheduling at least one pre-construction meeting with all of the users of 80 Windsor. There will be some things that will need to be moved in the Girl Scout room and in the library, and certainly our public works crew will be assisting all of the organizations there to move things and get us prepared. We're looking at, as I said earlier, mid-March start date, and I don't have anything else to report on.
A completion date or 2 months hence?
I think June was like a good date.
Mid-June completion.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing you didn't mention, but I'll add to the minutes, is that it was approved by council.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. I guess subsequent to our last meeting, it also it was decided to do it all at once rather than in phase. Correct. Okay, any questions from over here on that? Okay, Narberth Avenue Bridge update.
So not much has changed since our last meeting. I did have we meet every 2 weeks with the project manager. I had our meeting this morning. Some good-ish news. We have some news from Amtrak. Not the best news that we're hoping for yet about the down payment, the 30% down payment. We still don't have an answer on that, but they have reviewed our final plans, and they have submitted a no exception letter, which means they sign off on it. So that's a pretty big step, and we're continuing to inch forward. I did get a communication from our representative at PennDOT, kind of our project manager at PennDOT, that PennDOT will be meeting with Amtrak at some point this week, and we're just wondering if we could provide them with the details of any status updates that we've had regarding the reimbursement. Because there's a similar project down the line in Parksburg Borough that they're currently under design.
And since our last meeting, I guess PECO submitted the documents that they said they were going to submit?
Yes.
Which is what Amtrak reviewed, I guess.
Yes.
So, what is the current hurdle hurdle? What is the next, like, sort of critical item that has to happen?
A lot. We still need to hear back from Amtrak and about.
Well, I thought you said that you just heard back from them.
Well, there's two things. We heard back about the plan review.
Mm-hmm.
We need to hear back about the reimbursement and down payment requirements. That's the outstanding thing that we're waiting on.
So we're not making the down payment until we hear back about that?
Correct.
Okay.
Then once all of the final project, we got to submit to the PUC, once it gets everything buttoned up, everything with a ribbon on it, then we get on Amtrak's construction schedule.
Right, so what's holding up submitting to the PUC, that Amtrak deposit or not?
No, none of the final plans have been signed off on by all parties yet. So we're still working on all of those approvals. Amtrak was a big one.
So who else is signed up?
Utilities, Verizon, Comcast, Pico lighting plan. There is some additional lighting fixtures that will be integrated into the bridge itself. Those plans need to be reviewed and updated. You know, interestingly enough, I asked about what the typical time frame is for a bridge replacement project along Amtrak's right of way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the answer was?
What's that?
15 to 20 years.
Wow, well, we started some time ago, so.
And we are hitting just about hitting that time frame.
But is anything holding up these, was the Amtrak approval holding up these utilities approvals, or they're just independent?
No, independent.
So.
We can't get on Amtrak's construction schedule without everything approved, reviewed and approved, and the financial aspect squared away with Amtrak.
Right, but the PUC stuff can go in once you have these utilities approvals.
Once all the plans have been approved, yes. You can't do it, you can't submit things to the PUC if they're still in process.
No, I understand, but the things that are still in process are these utilities.
Yep.
Now, this is a case where if there's any change to the plan, we have to start over again with the approvals and everyone has to approve again, or is that
Major changes, yes.
major changes?
Yes.
Any anticipated major changes?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not gonna say no, not that I'm aware of.
Understood.
One never knows.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have any sense of when Verizon, Comcast, and Pico Lighting are gonna respond? But the project manager, Panoni, is presumably like staying on top of that? Or?
Yes, they are. We are we've become a thorn in everyone's sides these days.
Sounds great.
If not weekly, every other week emails, hey, what's the status on this? What's the status
Okay,
on
so
this?
when you meet next, that would be a good thing to push because that appears to be the current, one of the current bottlenecks.
It's hard to push when we're all pushing together, right? Panoni pushes,
Right.
but when you can only push so far.
No, I know, but I'm just asking them just to check on those three things because that's all of a sudden that's become the new thing. Okay. Talk about the street light on the 100 block of Dudley.
Yeah, so thanks for the action shots on YouTube with walking the street at night. This request had come in. Apparently there was a light between Haverford and Windsor on the 100 block, closer to Haverford, that was originally a part of, there was a Pico light there. Sometime, I don't know when, I don't know the details, between the time when the streetlight project commenced, when we purchased all the streetlights from Pico, there was a Pico light there, street light. It came down for some reason, I don't know why or how, and then it didn't get reinstalled when we did the LED replacement project. We've been checking, and Jeff has checked the list that was submitted to Pico for the repurchase of the streetlights, and yes, that light was on the list. So, we are still hunting down some more specifics. We're looking for a poll number, we're looking for any other documentation that we have. I've already mentioned it to our PICO representative, municipal representative, and they are aware of it. And so hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have some more details to report back. Because if we purchased that, that light back from PICO, then I believe we should be having another light installed there. So that is an active situation.
Are they responsible for replacing it?
It should be. If we've purchased it, it should be. And those are the details I don't have yet.
Yeah, so the conversion to LED, I assume normally we're just responsible for the conversion of the bulb or the electronics or something, but this is a whole
So
step.
when we did the conversion to LEDs, it was the entire mat, like the entire fixture.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there was no way to retrofit. Those were like original light fixtures, many of them.
Yeah, but you can think they might charge us, like, to mobilize and do the work, because, I mean, I guess, or was there a mistake that they didn't?
Not sure yet,
Okay.
and I don't wanna say
Okay.
one way or the other. Those are the details that we're still working on.
Okay,
Because we paid for the installation through that project.
but you don't know if you paid for this installation?
Correct. And I wasn't here when it was installed. I was here working on the LED streetlight project, got it up to construction and left. I don't know what the process was when the new lights went in to cross-reference what was existing versus what was new. So this is,
But it's possible that they, what was on the list, they billed us. It's possible that they
those are the
didn't bill us.
details we,
Yeah, okay.
I don't have to provide yet. Regardless, we're estimating an investment of, we estimate like $2,000-ish to install it.
Mhm. Well, yeah, what about purchase it? That's inclusive.
That's what I mean, purchase and install it. Yeah.
So at some point, you know.
Is it the one at Dudley and Windsor? That intersection, or?
No, it's closer to Haverford.
Okay.
Jim can
There's
tell.
like two that are mid-ish block, one closer to Windsor and one closer to Haverford.
Okay, gotcha.
The pole in front of 102 Dudley.
Okay. Oh, I see, yeah. Mhm.
But, I mean, Tim, is your conclusion that it needs to be replaced?
Yeah, it's pretty dark there, I toured it at night. It's definitely dark, especially on the far side of the street, the lighting conditions at the intersection itself are fantastic, light is like that double intensity at Haverford, but you can see where the light stops down Dudley, and then it's just, it's sort of shrouded in darkness for a bit.
If we paid for it, I want to make sure we get it installed. Right, that's what we need to.
Well, if we paid for it before.
Yes.
It's possible that they charge you for the fixture but not the install, and all these things are possible. Okay, let's move along. The road paving program?
Yeah, so we previously identified with Public Works that the intended area for paving this year would be Haverford Avenue all the way from Montgomery down to Iona, and then also Shirley Avenue, which loops around the horseshoe from Haverford to Haverford.
Sorry, Haverford from Montgomery to where?
Iona.
Okay.
And then Shirley, the full length of Shirley, the horseshoe from Haverford back around to Haverford. So we were able to go out and measure that up and put an estimated cost to that, which we're estimating that would be $119,000 worth of work. And then just while in that area, the other item to consider how or if you want to proceed is there's that spur that sticks off of Shirley, which is actually a private road. So by default, we would not be paving that. So the question to the borough, we might have discussed a little bit, is if you're inclined, you could offer to those homeowners the opportunity to get the larger contract pricing if they were so inclined to pave that little road. Just for a scope, we measured that one up and we put that at about $14,000 to pave the spur.
Say that number again?
About 14,000.
And do we know who to contact there?
It would be all property owners.
Oh, and they don't have an association, or maybe they do.
I don't believe they do.
I do know some people who live there, so.
One of which is a council member.
Well, so I guess we
Know
can
somebody.
ask him to,
Yeah. And Eric, would you recommend just dividing that up equally
but a tax bill or something, or?
or frontage, or, I mean, how would you?
Great question, because then it flares out at the end of that.
Well, that's Hamilton.
Which it flares out and looking at, and that serves us back two homes there. I mean,
So what do we have that, like, as an add alternate bid?
well, so we could. So right by default, it's not going to be included in there, but if we were so inclined, we could put it as an add alternate.
But it's not, the drawings aren't far enough along to where we have the add alternate.
Well, no, so the contract for a roads program is very straightforward. It's just 10 pages of documents and a map that's colored on where they're going to pave.
And it's like per square foot.
Yeah, and you just pay per square foot of mill overlay, base repair.
So we don't really need to get new bids or whatever.
No, so if you were so inclined, you could have our base bid for the roads that you want to pave, and then you could put it as an add alternate to do the additional square footage.
I guess I'm asking is like, when do you need this answer by?
Well, I think we could be in the position, if you're so inclined, if you wanted to authorize to go out to bid, we could go as early as next month to bid by, let's say, the end of, so if you were to.
Oh, but you can still bid it with the add alternate.
We could, and then we could always just drop that off.
Yeah, so that's what I would do, is
Okay.
bid it with the add alternate.
And provide
And then,
opportunity
in the meantime, we've got to, reach out to these.
Or would you just
Or
prefer
we
to
just
contact the homeowners and then see if they're interested? And then eventually just.
Why don't we just ask Mike, we're going to see him on Thursday, right?
How would this affect liquid fuels?
You can, you just make a distinction on what you're paying out of general fund when you do your liquid fuels. So you would take, if there's a road segment that you're gonna pave that's
So it'll
not,
be that, let's use the 14,000, the
you would just
14,000.
clearly delineate that as general funds allocation out of your, when you do your liquid fuels.
And then how would we charge those homeowners for that service?
It would be a bill to,
Yeah, it depends
you
on-
just pay to do bill the property owners.
Okay.
If we want it under the borough's paving contract, we would foot the bill and then we would invoice the residents based upon the criteria that we determine. If it's just gonna, if there's however many properties divided equally, or if we wanna go road frontage.
But there's no strictures around, like, there's no sort of like state rules around how we structure that, like, if they decide that they dividing equally is fine, or if they decide they want to do it based off of frontage.
No, this is really, I only bring it up because this is do you want to offer this to your residents? I mean, it's not your road, you don't have to pave it.
Yeah.
If you feel so inclined to try and assist them on this, then it would just be billing the property owners as you see fit.
Yeah, but the problem is that they don't all agree,
Well, I mean, there's that.
because then you can't build them.
Right, so basically we need consensus if they are willing to do
Should
it.
talk to Mike and then give a note.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other project status that you have?
No, it's just kind of connected in with that. They had done the sanitary sewer repair on Haverford. That trench is going to have a final restoration completed ahead of the paving, so that project is completely done. Woodside Storm Sewer is completely done. I believe you got the reimbursement. If you did not get the check already for the grant reimbursement. All right, so you got the grant reimbursement for that, so
Yes.
that project is done successfully. And then we are just working with various staff on the HVAC.
Surprised how quickly we got the check.
Yeah, they got you the last bit of paperwork you needed and then sent a check out, so.
It's a personal check. Yeah.
Okay.
It's, well, it had a personal touch to it,
What does that mean? Isn't it from Pennsylvania?
Conservation District, so. It's money allocated to the conservation district and they dole out to various projects.
They're kind of like an independent, like they're state affiliated, I guess.
Correct.
That's what we found out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they get funding from the state and they're charged with enforcement of erosion center control,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Okay, that takes us to with a fair amount of time left to talk about the draft capital improvement plan.
Thank you. All right. We talked about the capital improvement plan at the previous meeting where I described the idea of how I'm recommending moving forward with the capital plan. Beginning of the year, you do it from January through mid-year. Just to remind everybody, this is not a funding document, this is a planning document. The funding document is the budget, and if we target a mid-year adoption, consideration and adoption of a capital improvement plan, that would then link into the budget making process that usually kicks off mid to late mid-year. The first step is for staff to think of all of the potential capital investments. And anybody bonus points, how do we define a capital investment? What are the two criteria?
$5,000?
$5,000 and?
Was it 5-year lifetime?
Nope.
2-year lifetime?
2 year. 5 years and 2 years, all right? Those are the two things that we use when we identify any purchase. We say, okay, is it in excess of $5,000? If yes, does it have a useful life of more than 2 years? If yes, hey, it is a capital expense. Things that we don't like to see on a capital plan are planning documents, reports, studies, those sorts of things. While it has useful life, it would hit those things. Those are more planning documents. We're looking for real infrastructure, things that you can pick up, you can see, you can use. Planning documents are important to promote things inside of your capital plan, especially if you have significant investments projected for municipal property. Thinking master park plan coming up, we've got the master park plan happening, which will generate a series of recommendations for potential capital investments. We're not putting the park plan, and it's not included in the capital improvement plan, but those potential recommendations will live here in the capital plan. I keep pointing to my computer, I've got it up on my screen. The first step is to create this list of all known things. And this is our inventory, or the laundry list of all known things. And remember, it's a snapshot in time. It's the best guess of all of those things that we know of at this point. This is a living, breathing document. It's only as good as those of us who continue to interact with it and add things and update to it. We've added, I think, 2 items since we last discussed it last month. And as projects get completed, we also then need to go in and adjust it to keep it current. It's not going to be removed from the inventory list. Its prioritization gets reduced since it should be a new thing. I had forwarded it around to this committee late last week. I hope you've all had a chance to digest it and look at those items, all of the nuggets. We are up to 75 items, 75, 76 items, unique items, ranging from, major street sweeper all the way down to sidewalk replacement. So it runs the gamut. The capital improvement plan is organized in such a way where we can query by department, the date that we added it, the exact site, or if it's an item like a fleet, what is it, what is that thing, and then that title. And then what we also did is developed a prioritization. There's 5 buckets: high, medium, low, and low. A replacement year, estimated cost, and I like to break it out in 2 different columns with estimated cost. Just want to remind everyone who's following at home and this committee that these estimated costs are pretty much best guessed estimates. We do not have full certified estimates because it would just take way too much time, and those estimates are only good for a short window of time. If we have an estimated cost of low and an estimated cost of high, we can then see a range of total cost to, if we wanted to do every single one of the 76 items, it would cost us a minimum amount of X amount of dollars and a maximum amount of X amount of dollars. And then the status. A few things that are currently on this investment, or on this inventory list have been completed, and it's important to allocate or assign, whether it's been completed, in progress, or proposed. As a result of last month's review, it was suggested that we add another column for grant eligibility, and so we added that one on it. You will see that it's not fully filled out quite yet, and that's something that will be also another living, breathing section on it. Once we get grants come and go, and it's good to have an idea of what we need to be done. If you've heard me use the analogy before, grants are like coupons. We have our shopping list here, and now grants come along. We can look at our shopping list and say, hey, this one would actually help us purchase this one here, and then we can identify those grants. Today, we've all received an email from Mr. Gaudini, who proposed a pretty remarkable addition to it. My interpretation, and I'm going to turn it over to you to explain it here in a minute, but my interpretation is your approach, your suggested approach, is to create an objective criteria for evaluation of each item, which then determines a priority. Right? And so it's a way for this committee, for staff to assign specific values to each of these things based upon different criteria, and then summarize that total amount, and then depending upon what that final score is, it determines what that priority would be. Is that a fair interpretation?
Yeah, I think that is, and I printed out kind of like my copies of your thinking on this, just so folks would have it in front of them. Basically, I came up with this because I was on a plane trying to sort through my thoughts on the list, and I realized that all of my notes were highly kind of subjective in terms of just the way I was thinking about things, and then I didn't have a point of reference for approaching it as a whole, and also just kind of comparing things beyond that. So I just tried to think through what are the things, if I didn't know what was on the list, what would be the things that I would try to look for to say these would be things to prioritize, highest priority. So basically I kind of came up with that. Also, when I worked on these types of planning documents in other contexts, they were helpful because it gave you the sense that this thing was living on beyond the individuals who were working on it, and any new folks that might come into the process later on would have an immediate point of reference rather than recreating the way that they look at things or whatever. And then additionally, if folks at any point want to talk about changing their priorities, you have kind of a basis to go back to, and you don't have to recreate all of your priorities from scratch each time. So the goal was to try to do this in a way that was doable, didn't provide a bunch of extra work. It was something that could hopefully be strike a balance between providing kind of some of those objective things, but without requiring a ton of data collection or new work or something like that. Something that could be done pretty easily, but serve those purposes. This was kind of what I came up with when I tried to structure all those thoughts into a thing. All I say, it doesn't necessarily need to be all of these things, but I wanted to put it down into words and give it form so that there was some sort of clear thing that we were talking about, rather than kind of ideas. That was the concept.
Was your thought that each of us would independently rank these and then we'd have like a composite score, or?
I was more so thinking that, like, we as council could figure out, like, what are the, like, you know, costs. I had cost savings, help, like, those things, like, what are those things? And then kind of like have a description of, you know, what high, medium, low are, and then let staff, as like the expertise provide, like the rankings. That was kind of the way that I had envisioned it. So it was kind of like a policy level discussion here, and then they implement the policy. That was the way I kind of envisioned that.
Any thoughts on this, Matt?
I just think it's my gears are turning after I got the email, and, you know, I spent the last, you know, the hour before this meeting just messing around with creating the columns in the spreadsheet and coming up with a way to even simplify this even more. And that was something I was talking to Michael about before the meeting started, that maybe I find this really useful, and I think that this would empower staff to provide more data, to provide better decision-making for you all, data-informed decisions, right? It empowers us to say, thank you, council develops this criteria, this committee develops this criteria, here are the ranges, we now have our marching orders, here are the ranges, we interpret as the management team, have the ability to go in and review each one of these things, assign a value, and each one gets it to that total priority score. My suggestion at the beginning of this meeting, before the meeting started, was that let's simplify it. Can we simplify this even more? And instead of having ranges 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, how about we just go 0, 3, and 5 for each one, which would signify low, medium, high. And so each of the 5 columns would have 3 potential values, 0, 3, or 5. So the highest total score would be 25. And then we can have, since there's 5 categories and 5 categories of the prioritization, it's great. Equal intervals, buckets of 5s, 0 to 5 would be low, 5 to 6, 5.1 to 6 would be medium low, medium high, and high.
Mm-hmm.
It will take me a little bit to fully fill this out, and I think if this committee is okay with it, I can take the next month before the next committee meeting to go through all these 75 things and assign values to it. I'm curious to see how this new proposed criteria compares to our institutional knowledge of what the values that we assign to it. I'm really curious to see, I just did one quickly here, and it came in at medium, and we had assigned medium high. Pretty close.
So, you think all these categories are equally weighted?
I mean, I just kind of put it in the simplest way, but if we want to assign different weightings, I think that's something that can be done fairly simply in Excel.
We'll do that later.
I think the value of seeing them broken out like that is worth more, to visually to see like how.
I know, but he's doing a composite score.
Yeah, but we'll still maybe see the columns, right? We'll see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to see it in this scenario, but after the meeting, I baked it into the spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. So I've got the different columns that you can see the scores across the categories and the scores, and then the final score, and then the new priority value.
And then, just out of curiosity, why not like a continuous range from 0 to 5 as opposed to, couldn't you just put a score in?
Just to keep it a little more simple.
Okay, that's cool.
There's no reason.
Okay. We can always change that, I guess.
Yes, we can.
Right. So the action item is for you guys to go back, before the next meeting and update the spreadsheet to include all of that.
If this committee likes this approach and, wants us to update it, we'll take the next month, and I don't want us, a word of caution, I don't want us to take too much more time reviewing these things. I'd like this thing to get
Well, you can
moving.
distribute it when it's ready.
Yes, because I also need to do the financial aspect of the capital plan. Right, we're still in the reviewing of the nuggets right now. I have not had a chance to look at what it's gonna cost based upon the prioritization and what our current funding levels are. So that's
So
the
can we
next
say in
step.
the next 2 weeks you'll get this out?
I will have it done before the next meeting that we can discuss.
Okay.
Can I was wondering about just some of the phrasing, the cost factor. There may well be some things that benefit from waiting, like such as electric vehicles might be cheaper in the future. There are also in the future, there may be more, maybe there are grants anticipated in the future that would reduce the cost. So a change in meaningful cost could go either way, you know?
You put does not expect a meaningful increase.
Get meaningful increase, yeah.
Right.
Well, it would be helpful to have the final definitions
Yeah,
before I spend the time to
Right.
assign values.
sure.
Anybody have any other comments on
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I would just like to just quickly go into these, seeing if we're leaving anything off on the other end, you know, like that's currently off the scale.
Would it be acceptable if I asked this committee to refine this within the next week? And then submit, you know, you all can do that with me via
No,
email?
I think we,
What?
you want the week to do it?
I wouldn't, just like a day, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I didn't want. That's fine.
So,
You said it, not me. But proof of concept, you all agree that this is a valuable exercise to refine
yeah, it's great.
the capital improvement plan.
Should we run our concerns through Michael and?
Include everyone on the.
Yeah, why not just look this group?
Okay.
It'd be good.
I like the idea of having the other considerations, like maybe having a column with some notes, you know, like, might be an important note that we need to make that's not hit on by the criteria here, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I added a catch-all, I call it boost. You know, that's how you can skew it. You know, you can put something in that it falls outside of one of these 5 criteria, where council as a body can say, look, you know, while it might not be a high priority in the greater good, we would like to give it a bonus of X amount. Put that in and it could.
Call it skew it. I'll call it context sensitive.
You have the survey score and then the scrub score. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments on this?
I think, you know, the laundry list itself, you know, were there any other projects that you can think of that were glaringly absent? We've been looking at this so long that, you know, sometimes obvious omissions, like, oh my God, how did we forget that one?
I don't think 75's enough. I think we need to keep adding.
Easy. Haven't done the financial part of it yet.
I just got a quick question about the prioritization, and I notice a number of things that are rated low tend to be replacement year for the the far future, like 2029. I was wondering, is that correlation or is that causation? You know, are they slated for 2029 because they're low, or are they, you know, like once we get to 2029, presumably there will be high priority items 5 years from now.
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay.
You know, I don't think that priority year influences the priority, but it's not a sole contributor. It is this is a long term, this is beyond the 5-year horizon, and is it a is it a need right now, and do you perceive it to be a need at that point? Remember, it's a snapshot of right now, what we believe.
So just in terms of process, council as a whole will eventually decide which of these to fund individually, or?
So that's the part of it that's the next step, right? This is why I don't want this group to spend too much more time at this level. I need to take this and get the prioritization, and we will review those priorities, the final prioritization. That's what becomes the plan. I'll then be able to look at what's the total expected cost to do everything. My recommendation is to focus on the high priority items. Look at those high priority items. What's the total cost of those high priority items? And then over a 5-year horizon. Put them in each of the buckets, and then everything else that's not in the high priority list becomes 5+ years.
So it would sort of get bumped to next year. It would
Yes.
stay on the capital improvement list for next
Yes.
year, maybe with a higher priority,
Yeah.
maybe with a different date.
Hence this exercise annually. Let's review these things. Most of our work is going to be this year, building this thing.
Yeah.
From this point onward, it becomes a little more easy because we can reevaluate each one of these items, reassess them, and see if the prioritization has changed.
Makes sense.
Okay? We're good? We have a plan?
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Is there anybody on the Zoom?
There's no one in the waiting room.
Okay, so no public comment because there's nobody in the room. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.